May it please the court, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your time and attention. 3.7 seconds. 3.7 seconds. That was when the officer unclaps the handcuffs. My client heard it, turned and looked at him, and made a move for the bench. This all occurred in 3.7 seconds. That was not enough time for Mr. Redden to formulate the intent to kill Judge Holthus. Remember what this case is about. There is one count of attempted murder. And for there to be an attempted murder, there has to be intent to kill. As everything else in life, the story didn't begin on January 13th. This story actually occurred on April 13th, 2023. This is when Mr. Redden was first arrested for what brought him in front of Judge Holthus. And basically, Mr. Redden was arrested for swinging a metal baseball bat at his brother-in-law. What was he charged with? He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. He was also apprehended by the police, and he was taken into custody. When you're taken into custody, you're supposed to, within 48 hours, stand before a magistrate so they could decide the question of bail or not. Mr. Redden, on April 13th, told the officers that had him in custody that he refused to be transported. So he was just going to stay in custody without these charges being read to him. The following week, they waited some time, continued the matter. On April 20th, 2023, Mr. Redden, he failed to leave his jail cell again, and he says that he wasn't coming to the hearing. They had to continue the hearing. Again, on April 25th, Mr. Redden refused to be transported to the heading. Finally, the Justice Court Judge Jacinto, he did an order that says, by any means necessary, he needs to be present in this courtroom. So on April 26th, the officers got Mr. Redden, and he was present. The judge then, he's handed the charges. The judge asked him if he understood the charges. Mr. Redden didn't even respond to the judge's questions, even though he had a copy of the information, which was assault with a deadly weapon, on his person. And not only did he not answer the judge's questions, he became disruptive in the court proceedings. At this point, again, we have almost a week plus that we see this individual not coming to court. Once he gets to court, he's being disruptive and he's not participating in the court proceedings. At this point, his attorney, which was a public defender, then petitions the court to send him to what's called competency court. Competency court is a whole nother courtroom here in our building. And competency court is for people that do not understand the legal proceedings, are unable to assist their attorneys in their defense, or number 3, appear to have some kind of mental condition that prohibits them from acting properly in court. All those things were exhibited by my client, Mr. Redden. He was sent there to be evaluated and see if he can be restored to competency. Restored to competency is basically, we can't try you. we cannot prosecute you under the law since you're not understanding what's going on. You're not displaying courtroom behavior, you're not helping your attorney out. We can't sit here and prosecute you. Go ahead. So, basically, he's found on May 23rd, he's sent to Lake Crossing. Lake Crossing is a mental institution here in town, and what they do at Lake Crossing is make sure that you're evaluated to test your competency. Sometimes, people are sent there and they have lingering symptoms like they're just making up, acting crazy. Other times, they sit there and evaluate someone and their mental instability is so severe, they just have to stay at Lakes Crossing for an indefinite amount of time because, again, the state can't prosecute you under that incompetency. So, in regards to Mr. Redden, he was evaluated and it was determined by Dr. John Paglini, who will be here and he will testify in regards to this case and in regards to his finding of incompetency. And there are other psychiatrists because there at least has to be two that make that determination. And what they determined was he was incompetent to stand trial, and so he was given a course of medication because his evaluation indicated that during this course of medication that would calm him down, bring him back to earth, bring him to a person that we can work with, that he can go to court, he can understand the proceedings, and not be disruptive in court. So Mr. Redden, when you go back to that one, I just want to make the last point that he was at Lakes Crossing for 5 months. He is eventually found by the doctors on October 20th, 2023 to be competent to go ahead and proceed with trial. So exactly 5 months later. Go ahead now, sir. After he returned back to Justice Court, he was in front of Judge Jacinto. He had discussions with his attorney at that time, and they decided that he was going to go ahead and enter into a guilty plea with the state of Nevada. Again, now he's of right mind. He is able to discuss his case with his attorney. As you can see, there was no courtroom outbursts or anything like that. And so much so, the judge released him on November 1st, 2023. He was released from custody. Okay? He returns to back to court, and now this is district court. This is in front of Judge Holthus. And on December 6th, he has no extreme courtroom behavior. He goes ahead and the guilty plea agreement's read to him. He answers a myriad of questions, and he pleads guilty to an attempt assault with a deadly weapon. The sentencing was scheduled for January 3rd, 2024. Next slide. What you're going to see through medical records, through the testimony of Dr. Paglini, Mr. Redden did not receive his medication that he had while he was here in Clark County Detention Center. What happened was he gets released and he's given a prescription. That prescription is supposed to be filled at the Mojave Health Center. He calls and you'll hear testimony from Karen Springer. Karen Springer is his foster mother that he stayed with during this time. They made several attempts at appointments, called, and attempted to get him in so he could take his medication. However, you'll see through the testimony, he does not get medication, and he doesn't get it for 2 months. So from November 1st to 2020, in November 1st, 2023 to January 3rd, 2024, a period of 60 days, he does not have his medication that put him in that state where we saw the appropriate behavior. What you're seeing today, basically, he's under that medication that he had when he was in CCDC. And that's why he's displaying, good decorum, appropriate courtroom behavior. He's not going to wild out, and trust me, I'll tackle him if he tries to, do anything like that. But bottom line, that's not going to happen because he's medicated, he's calm, he understands what the proceedings are and what's going on right now. During this 60 days, Mr. Redden slipped back into his unstable mental state. The same mental state that he had when he was first arrested for assault with a deadly weapon and charged and eventually pled to attempted assault with a deadly weapon. Next. Then we have this unfortunate incident that happened on January 3rd, 2024. One thing I noticed, and I looked at this videotape several times from the very beginning to the very end. I know that all the parties involved. A simple question wasn't asked. And I'll explain later as to why it wasn't asked. But no one asked Mr. Redden, did you take your medication today? His attorney didn't ask, the prosecution didn't ask, nor Judge Holthus asked. I'm not saying this is anybody's fault, it simply wasn't done. So he comes into court and nobody knows what his real mental state is during that time. Nobody knows that for 60 days he's been having paranoid thoughts. Nobody knows that he's been staying at home, not going out into the public, and different other things that were discovered by Dr. Paglini that he'll discuss. Mr. Redden did not intend to kill Judge Holthus. The evidence will show that Judge Holthus, she hurt her head when she struck the wall that was directly behind her, similar to this wall. She also was hurt when she fell on the floor. You'll see pictures. She wasn't significantly bruised. She was bruised, but it wasn't significant bruises. And those were basically on the areas where she fell. She had no cut. She had no strangulation marks on her throat. There will be no evidence that anybody ever that saw Mr. Redden touch her throat. We'll have specific evidence of where his hands were placed right before he was pulled off of Judge Holthus. But again, his actions do not indicate that he was intending to kill Judge Holthus. And again, you always have to go back to intent. That is going to be the big question that you guys are going to have to deal with at closing. Did he have the intent to go ahead and kill? And we are going to submit that the evidence does not show there was any intent to kill Judge Holthus. Thank you.
Okay. Counsel approach